Hello, everybody. My name is Erika, and we are here today with Graeme and Yoko, the main faces behind Made of Night, the show that was performed here at Brunel University of London on May 27, 2023. And 2 weeks after the show, when the adrenaline was worn out, we are talking about that night with the main characters. Can you introduce yourself?
I will. Thank you, Erika. Yes, my name is Graeme Shaw. I'm a principal technical specialist in the arts here at Brunel University. My role here at Brunel is very much looking after the music and theatre subjects, journalism, game design, English, film and TV as well. And I support all the subject areas in a technical capacity. And as part of that role, I get sometimes the opportunity to create work and immerse myself in technology and performance. So I created a piece of work called Made of Night. Features my wife, Yoko.
Hello, I'm Yoko. I'm a performer and a mother. I'm mothering now.
That's a job. Mother is the main job now.
Yeah.
So you are a performer and you are from Japan, but you've been living in London for many years, you said. So what about the performance? What can you tell us about the show?
Okay, so the inspiration and creation, there's no one seed. Comes from many different seeds, okay? So in no particular order, one of the seeds was a soundtrack that I created for a colleague's leaving do. So he retired from Brunel after many years, and as a thank you present, I created a soundscape, okay? That soundscape included voice samples of my son, Shannon, okay? If I remember correctly, the soundscape revolved around the question, what is the moon for? So I took that statement from Shannon that he asked me, what is the moon for? And I don't know what the moon is for. I gave that question to a physicist here, Akram Khan, a colleague here at Brunel. And Akram replied to me, well, Graeme, how do we see darkness? How do we see light in the darkness of our minds? And that was such a profound statement. And Shannon's original question, what is the moon for, were profound statements. So I took those two statements, had Shannon record both of them, chopped them up and made that little soundscape for Johannes Beringer's leaving retirement party. Yoko performed to the soundtrack as a thank you gift. So that was one seed. Another seed is in a creative role in the arts. I am surrounded by technology and resources here at Brunel. Okay. So to get the chance and opportunity to develop my skills in all this software and technology and immerse myself in the space, doing something practical is really, really productive for me. It's kind of almost like professional development, where you use the software to get to an end result, just like the students would do as an assignment. So it's for me to drive myself, push myself further. And anything I do immediately feeds back into my role to support the students and staff. So another seed there. Another seed of inspiration and creation would be just my natural instinct or curiosity to create. I need to create something. I don't know where that comes from, but something's driving me to create. And that takes me onto journeys of recording the environment. Okay, I'm recording the life as it goes by. So I have hours of sound samples that I've recorded. I have hours of Shannon and Hannah learning to speak. You know, I have many recordings taken from Japan when we're in Japan in the summertime. Environmental sounds, outside sounds, inside sounds. So I've got this whole library of sounds that I have. I have this impulse to create. I have the resources, technologies in my professional life. I had that wonderful experience of the soundtrack from Johannes' thing. So putting them all together, this pop puree of inspiration, of creativity, drove me to, or inspired me to create this piece of work. And I think the final seed in the mix is a piece of work that I made many years ago, in 2016. And that work was called Oran Sonic, essentially using the same technology that I use here in Made of Night, but 7 years later, with the latest technology, and developing what I started then, which is something called gesture control, something I called gesture controlled sound. Okay, it's very simple. The performer moves and that manipulates the sound. Okay, that could be pitch, frequency, volume. It's up to me how that manipulation works, and between the two of us we refine that. So that was the inspiration, briefly, behind Made of Night. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And a question for Yoko. How was being on the behind the scenes, not only of the performance, because of course you were performing, but also of the creation of the performance? You must have seen how it was born and developed through these months.
He had lots of helpers, students helpers, and they helped him the first bit of the creation. They are so helpful. They participated in the rehearsals, and and then the system was built in a certain level, and then I was invited, and then children were invited, and we had some experiments all together, and I knew Shannon's nightmare was a kind of theme, and it was a title, right? Made of Night. That was very interesting to bring my personal life as a mother, looking after my children, into the performance, and then I created some movements out of that, children's development, and so yeah. Shannon was having a bad dream until he got 3 years old, something, right? I think. And that was, I think, his sort of curiosity towards the world and fear at the same time. So that kind of interaction towards the world and between the world created that kind of monster in his head. That was my understanding. And so that inspired me a lot. So I wanted to be the monster sometimes, and then I wanted to be himself. I wanted to be my daughter, and wanted to be kind of concept of battering, a concept of darkness, concept of night. So yeah, that gave me a lot of motives for the movement.
Wow. Yeah. And did you create and write the show with Yoko in mind, was she your first acting choice, or did she have to go through a selection as well?
No, she did not have to audition. She was.
Would
It's
it
funny
be-
you should ask about the use the word write the show. I don't feel I wrote it. It just evolved. So what would happen? I mean, we started rehearsals, I think, back in January, in winter, and we come. I would come every Saturday, as Yoko said. I had student helpers here, and together we'd build the system, set up the camera, set the lighting up, set all the technology up, and just at that stage troubleshoot. Okay, just try and get things to work. Okay. There's no at this stage. There's no script. There's no storyline. There's no narrative. I don't recall at which point the actual Maid of Night sort of landed. The title Maid of Night landed, and as Yoko says, it was Maid of Night was a question asked by Shannon after a nightmare, asking what is the ghost made of?
Mm-hmm.
Is it made of night? And that really really inspired me. So Made of Night, it evolved through many rehearsal processes. Every weekend I would come here, set the system up, do the rehearsal, and then during the week I would review that rehearsal footage and then start programming and refining the software week by week to such a point where it got to be stable enough and reliable enough to invite Yoko in to start performing with it. And then once she started performing with it, we, I guess, just through rehearsals, came up with different scenes. And every scene is pretty much a different technical exercise. It doesn't really contain a story as such. It is based upon the scene is like me exploring this technique. That could be, for example, the first scene was the marbles. So I've got a contact microphone. A contact microphone is something makes contact with a surface. In this case, it's a physical bowl. In the bowl are marbles. Marbles are metaphors for planets. So that contact microphone is quite simply processing the sound of marbles through delays and reverbs and pitch and frequency adjustments. The second scene, I believe, from memory, after 2 weeks, was the crossing. Crossing, quite simply, very, very, very simple idea. Camera above the stage, looking at the stage. The performer walks across the stage and triggers a sound as they walk under the camera. It's a very simple idea. And that's evolves, those techniques evolve throughout the show. So eventually the performer is not just triggering sounds, the performer then, Yoko, is using her body to control the speed and pitch and frequency of the sound. And then layered off with that, I'm perhaps playing soundtracks from Japan, cicadas chirping, ambulances in the distance. There's a thunderstorm at the beginning of the piece. That was something I recorded as well from Japan. And for me, the heart of this piece is a scene called Stockhausen, which is a reference to obviously Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, composer, and his use of electronic music. So I used the software to playfully reference the music and the work and the sound world of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. Yes. Yes.
So it was very helpful to have a performer in the family because there's the technical parts that came from you and the inspiration that came from your children got united, linked in some way to the performative
Absolutely,
parts.
because I have no knowledge or idea of choreography. I don't know how to tell someone to move or to be on stage. That's not what I know, not what I do. But Yoko comes with this enormous background and talent of being able to improvise and to a very high level. So, Shannon. Okay. And that's really helpful, as you said, having the performative talent and the actual catalyst of the narrative talent and so on. It wasn't by design; it just evolved.
That's amazing. And this shows how it is like a family project. This is really why it gets to people, because you get the audience inside your project with you. And this is, I think it's so sensitive. It's very pretty, very beautiful. So we were talking about your backgrounds in the performance and in the arts. So where did this path start?
Okay, that'll be a very long story, but make it shorter. I started my career as a theatre actress in Tokyo, and I was involved in lots of contemporary kind of experimental theatre groups, and meanwhile I was interested in movements and especially Buto. Do you know Buto?
I don't.
Buto is a sort of Japanese contemporary dance, it's so called. So that inspired me a lot, and I was interested in improvisation as well. So Buto is kind of, for me, it's more like improvisation, using my existence in the body. So and then I went into that kind of dance field, and then I started to create my own works, so-called performance art sort of stuffs, and I created some like one-on-one performances, like one performer, one audience experience. So I was more interested in how a performance can be a performance. So like how I can create a style of a performance, and how I can interact with the audience. What is a relationship in between performer and audience, and what is a contract in between. So that was my interest, and distance as well. If it comes to be digital performance, we can make like a tele performance with sort of like Skypes and telematic performances. So that kind of experimental performances was a kind of my center point of the performance making. So that was my background, and to perform in this performance, that was more like dance performance, I reckon. And so I used my improvisation skills, and that was like if I move, the sound comes, and then to that sound I dance, and then that movement creates another sound, and then I dance to it. Or I can completely ignore the sound, or I can play with the sound, or I can go with sound, or I can be controlled by the sound, or I can control the sound. You know, that communication or interaction with the sound was sort of interesting point for me. That created the movement. So I decided the direction of the movement, like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. But I didn't decide any like choreography at all. That was all improvisation. But I had that kind of direction, as I said, like wave. And then that direction was made from my son Shannon's experience of the bad trips. Does it make sense? Sorry.
It does. Well, you're the performer, so you tell us. It did make sense.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's beautiful hearing it, and it must have been so beautiful being there and being you and being in it. So it's like a circle. Every movement is inspired by itself, by the movement that comes before, and then after that there is another sound and there another movement. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, so that's why it was. That's what inspired you in that moment to move in that way. Because I imagine every rehearsal was different than the previous, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's very beautiful.
Do you want to interview with Shannon?
Yeah, we can.
He's here.
Do you want to come and answer a few questions? No?
Shannon,
Do you want to come?
おいでおいで。おいで。話して。
Come here.
There he is. The main character, actually. It's him behind Maid of Night. And you were there. You were one of the actors as well of the performance. How was it? Was it difficult to remember what to do?
No.
What did you have to do? Do you remember?
Had to cross in like a butterfly thing.
In the shape of a butterfly on the stage.
Yeah.
The path that he took on the stage was the shape of a butterfly.
It was
That's-
triangles, then triangle again.
That's right.
Well
It's
done.
in your blood. Of course it was easy for you. Well,
Ah, yes. It was too easy for me.
It was too easy.
too easy. Did you have fun?
Yes.
Was it strange to hear your voice?
Yes.
was.
But I knew it was I already know it's my voice.
How did we get your voice? Do you remember?
I went to the recording room and Latosan recorded my voice.
I did.
Oh, and it was all dark. Did you feel scared at all?
No,
Why didn't you feel scared? All right. Why didn't you feel? Why didn't you feel scared?
because when I was on the stage, I felt like, oh, this thing is fun. I want to join in because it's so fun. And then I started smiling when I was at the show. And Otto-san told me to be a serious ghost, but he couldn't put a serious face on me.
Oh,
You were so good. You were like a professional actor, but you do not. Have you ever done any acting before?
you were a snowman, weren't you?
Yes.
Where?
Yes. I at school.
Well, there's a career there. You were very good, and of course it wasn't scary, because somehow that darkness did not feel scary. This is what I felt. Like maybe it's all dark, and for a person, you don't see anything, and it's supposed to be scary, but it's not, because you put us in that position of I'm actually thinking about what this means. I'm actually thinking about the start of it all, or what's behind life, what's behind the moon. So it's kind of that protector environment that tells you you don't have to be scared of darkness, but just think about it. At least this is what I perceived, but I am curious about what it meant for you and what you wanted to, I don't know.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And he's only 6, right? Thank you.
That's a good question. What it meant for me?
And what did you want to, what message did you want to give to the audience?
Again, there's no one answer. It's layers and different seeds. I think on one of the seeds, again, I wanted to create an immersive environment, an alternative reality, somewhere to suspend belief, okay? Which is, I think, the power of theatre, that ability to walk into a room, into a theatre, and leave the real world outside, okay? Suddenly we're into whatever the artistic director decides, okay? And I wanted to immerse people in that environment, something where you can just forget your life just for that moment in time that you're in that theatre, that I've made. So that was one thing I wanted people just to be there in the moment. And to achieve that, I wanted to create this sound world and this visual world to make them forget reality. That's one side. Another side, again, I wanted the audience to really, maybe not question, but I wanted my technology to work so well that the audience had no idea what was happening. I really chose to work with technology in such a way that I wanted a clean aesthetic, meaning I wanted a very empty stage. I know from having seen many, many technical performances, often the technology is on stage. So you see all the laptops on stage. Perhaps the dancers or performers have sensors on them, wires attached to the bodies. And for me, it's very cluttered and messy. So I deliberately chose my camera above the stage. I deliberately chose not to have sensors onto the body, those wires. I know it can be wireless these days, but... So I wanted that aesthetic as well, a clean stage, clean, empty stage. But yet there's this technology involved that you don't see. Yeah, you don't see the camera above there. You don't see what the camera's looking at. I hope the audience maybe got the idea that there is this area of the camera's view. I think we did spike it on the stage, a rectangle on stage, and that's the area of the camera, and anything in that area is what was manipulated.
And in particular, what was manipulated? What is behind the software? How does it work?
Wow. I don't know how the software works because I didn't make it. I'll tell you the software. The three main softwares behind this. One is called Ishiguro. Ishiguro took care of the actual camera, the input signal from the camera, and very basic sound processing. So you take the camera image, convert that to a very solid black and white image. Then the white image, the software tells you the parameters of the image, if it's the size of it, this is me doing the size of the image. You get all the information of that size of the image, and that information, those numbers, I then use to manipulate the sound. So that could be the volume. If that size changes, that image changes, that could increase the volume or decrease the volume. So Isadora took care of that side. I then transmitted the information that Isadora gave me, all the numbers coming in of the different parameters of this different speed of the movements and the size of the movements. I then transferred that into another software called MaxMSP. The MaxMSP software was used for the Karlheinz Stockhausen scene to create or try to recreate the electronic music or sounds world of Karlheinz Stockhausen. On the other laptop, we have Ableton Live. Ableton Live was taking the microphones from the floor, 2 contact microphones on the stage, and a contact microphone on this bowl. So Ableton Live's taking those live feeds of the microphones, plus it's playing sound samples, plus it's playing drones, and plus it's doing sound processing. So it's adding reverbs and delays and granular delays. And there's more in there as well. I can't recall. So the technology is 2 laptops, multiple softwares, multiple levels of things going on different at the same time. Again, the whole idea of all this, the cumulative sum of this, is to create this immersive world. Okay, but you don't know what's going on. Well, you're not supposed to know what's going on. Because another thing that I tried in this performance is to hide the technical area. Often a technical area is backstage, or not backstage, it's behind the seating of the audience. So even if you look behind you as an audience member, you could see the tech desk. This show, I put the tech desk behind stage right, stage left actually. So out of sight, completely out of sight, so you don't see that. I think, again, part of my clean aesthetic, that you don't see any laptops, you don't see the camera, you don't even see the speaker. The speakers are hidden behind black drapes as well. So the technology is all there to create the illusion of this alternative world. I think that's the meaning I wanted to get out of it. And it's funny, I'm not trying to duck the question, but honestly, there was no narrative from start to finish. There wasn't a clear beginning, middle, and end of a narrative journey or story. It was individual scenes put together. And again, I said this before, each scene was a technical exercise for me in rehearsal. And we just put those technical exercises in sequence to come up with a show.
Right. And can we go through the scenes very briefly? You said there were 5 scenes.
There was more than 5. All right, from memory, okay.
And if Yoko wants to pitch in as well.
So the very first scene was actually pre-show. Okay, the audience walk into the sound playing already. Okay, it's a thunderstorm and drone. So immediately as you walk in, the show is started. Okay, for me. So that's pre-show. Scene 1 was the Universe Bowl. Universe Bowl
Marbles.
is a bowl, wooden bowl with marbles in it, with a contact mic being processed. But you were a monster? What were you?
I don't know.
You don't know. But ultimately you were there to manipulate the marbles, and that allows the software to process the sound and add delays and reverbs. So scene 1, universe ball marbles. Scene 2, the crossing. Okay. Crossing was quite a literal thing for me. Crossing from analog real world to this alternative reality,
143.
analog to digital, from real to unreal. Crossing, pedestrian crossing. So the concept is Shannon is the protagonist crossing the stage, and simply sound is triggered, okay, as you cross the stage. The sounds are of Shannon asking questions, okay, how did the world begin? How did light begin? How did sky begin? I can't remember the questions.
And fire begin.
How did fire begin? Thank you. But buried in that, okay, are some little Easter eggs, I call them. Okay, there are pedestrianized crossing signs from Japan. Okay, and Japan uses, and some of its crossings uses bird sounds, chirps and tweets. Is that right? So they are also buried into these, added on to Shannon's questions. So you had the pedestrianized sounds of Japan crossings, the chirps and cheeps, tweets from Japan. I believe also added in Shannon's whispering the questions as well. So there's different layers to make up one single audio sample. But that's a crossing. Crossing segues into percussion, okay. Arguably, this scene needs to be refined, but very simple. Move, and that movement generates a percussive sound, okay. Quite easy. It's, again, needs to be refined. However, in this scene, the percussionist, the protagonist, has real percussion, and I wanted a duet between the electronic gesture controlled percussion and the real percussion, and that summons the ghosts in the background. I don't know if you saw them, but ghosts come out of the back. Okay.
And one of them was Little Shannon.
Yes, yeah. Shannon was doing multitasking. So that was quite easy. Technically, it's quite an easy scene. Move, and that movement triggers a sound. We went into catching sound.
You call it.
I call it catching sound because its genesis for me was the movement of catching a sound, like imagining a bee flying around. You're trying to catch it. So if you move, the sound plays. If you stop, sound stops. If you move, sound plays. You stop, sound stops. But Yoko took it way farther than I ever imagined. And the sound in this case is a soundtrack I've made of various sound samples of Shannon and Hannah learning to speak. Okay. I had hours of sound samples, had to listen to them all, edit them down, and ended up made 15 samples and arranged them into 5 minutes maybe. And that's the soundtrack. It's them breathing, laughing, learning to talk. And Yoko comes on, and I don't know what. Quad 1. And the next scene, Quad 1. Here, I have this stage divided into the camera area, so I should say, divided into 4 sections, okay? Hence the name Quad. Each section triggers a sound, okay? And if I remember correctly, how did the world begin? So Shannon leads this scene. He walks around the camera area and triggers the sounds. How did the world begin? How did the world begin? Yoko joins after a while, and this is where it gets interesting for me, is where you start mixing up the sounds and mixing up the sequence of the words. So, how did world begin? How did world? Through their interaction, they were able to sort of slice up and rearrange the words. That was the interesting part for me. Next, do you remember? How?
The rope.
No. We're into brightness. I think we're into brightness now. How? We have different names for the same scene. Of course it is, yes. So how is very, very simple. It's all in Isadora again. It's the sample of Shannon saying how. And that sample is being repeated over and over again. However, it's the brightness of the software image, the camera image is controlling the speed of that word. So Yoko is controlling the speed, so it becomes quite a low rumble as the speed slows down, and it goes high-pitched chipmunk as it speeds up, but Yoko is controlling that. So it's a manipulation of the word how. How goes into silence? Yeah. Okay, so the silence, this scene came through by accident. In rehearsal, we're running this in rehearsal. At this point in the show, my computer crashes and everything goes quiet. So we continue in silence, and I reboot the computer, starts, and we continue the rehearsal. And in rehearsals, we film everything, okay, and to review it. So upon reviewing this rehearsal at this moment of computers crashing in silence, it just felt natural. It felt good to have all this silence after all the crazy sounds. So we just left it in. That's how it came about. There's no great meaning to it. It's just a pause, a pit stop, just a moment before the chaos of the next scene starts. And the next scene is, I'm pretty sure it's the Stockhausen, right? And the Stockhausen is the crazy electronic world of, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, or it's a reference to his music, which is quite abstract and quite hard to listen to. It bears no conformity to pop music of structure or it bears no conformity to pop music of rhythm, pitch, and sequence. It's just crazy. Stockhausen goes into another interlude. This is the moon, isn't it? Okay, so right now I'm at this stage, the moon comes onto stage. I'm playing drones generated by Ableton Live. I'm playing those drones live as a soundtrack for the moon arriving on stage. Meanwhile, the stage hands are putting a rope down onto stage. So when all that's set up, I present Akram Khan's question that I referenced earlier. Moon arrives in a dark stage. All we see is the moon. How do we see light in the darkness of our minds? As spoken by Shannon. Okay. Into the next scene, quad 2. Quad 2, again, same concept. The stage is divided into 4 areas, but this time each area is a question, a full-on question. How did the world begin? How did fire begin? How did light begin? How did the sky begin? Yoko triggers those questions by walking through the rope. The rope is strategically placed on over all four areas. Okay, so Yoko's triggering those questions, following the rope. The rope leads off to stage, into the last scene. I think I called the last scene Rope Monster. So now I'll open up, I change the lighting to open up illuminate the back of the stage, okay, creating a silhouette, because Yoko's in front of the lighting. So we just see a black silhouette against a red sunset wall, and a tug of war to we don't know who. We don't see the other end of the rope. So it could be a metaphor for anything you like. Life, love, death. You don't know what's the other end of this rope. Who is that? We don't know. Another Easter egg in this scene, which no one got, through no fault of their own, I put the soundtrack that I recorded of the bullet train, the Shinkansen of Japan. Okay, I recorded it inside. Traveling inside the Shinkansen, I just recorded the sound of it. So that comes in at this point. Okay. I think I've got a drone going as well. Yoko at this point is doing a tug of war with we don't know who. We pre-recorded her voice, her breath, fighting to exhaustion. You're eventually pulled off stage, right? Mm-hmm. And the piece resolves to a sound of a sleeping breath in darkness. Okay. So lights off, no crazy sound. It's just the pre-recorded sound of Yoko's breath sleeping. That fades out, and the show is over. So that's quite a long answer to tell us about your scenes. Okay.
And that was perfect. And at the end of it, the whole atmosphere was so peaceful, and we were all immersed in it, that the audience didn't quite catch that it was the end. We wanted to keep going. We wanted more.
That was a very odd moment, because I had instructed the stagehands, the helpers backstage, that we do not lead the applause. Yes, we know it's finished, but we let the audience lead the applause. And it became very obvious that no one's starting to applaud. So what do I do? And I'm saying to the backstage, no, don't start applauding. This is not our place. Let the audience find the moment, feel the moment, and let them applaud. And it became more obvious and awkward that I'll have to break my own golden rule here. And okay, I will lead the applause. So I started, and nothing happened.
We did not want to finish that.
So then, okay, I will put up the house lights, the stage, and that'll be a clear clue statement that it's finished. So I put the house lights on.
But it wasn't a
And still no one applauded. So I had to come onto stage and tell the audience it's over, which is something I wasn't expecting to have to do. But it seemed to be well received, right?
Yes.
You were there.
We want more, and that's
Okay.
I think that's what the message was by the audience. And will we receive more? Is there any other project in the building, in the making for you or your family?
Right now, no. We're just reflecting, relaxing. Because really, we've been doing this for like 5 months, since January, every weekend.
Yeah.
And it's become part of our family routine. It really has, every Saturday here rehearsing. So it's nice to break that routine and just not do it. But that said, the feedback I've had so far, I've definitely see I've got much work to do in developing this piece, or developing the technology. There's either I develop the show, redevelop the show, and refine the show, or just take the ideas and put it into a new piece of work. But nothing. No, it's all. We're just relaxed right now. There's
Okay.
nothing.
Do you think that you could do a take 2 and come on the stage with Maid of Night again?
Made of day, made
Like
of morning.
Maid of Morning, or do another day, another performance, the same, or representing it?
It's again. It's been mentioned. Right now, I've no energy for it.
After summer.
You have to remember that just the technical setup by itself is just extraordinary. Just getting the laptops, the camera system, the sound desk, the lighting, just getting that working is an achievement by itself.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, patience, and to take this to do the show again, you have to factor in all that logistics and time and the lighting as well.
It sounds complicated, so it must be complicated on your side.
Yes.
So my last question is, this is quite a family show in the end, and as you mentioned before, you two met in Brunel. How was it after many years coming together on stage in the same place where you met, but as a family? Did it bring you together, like closer as a family? How did you feel?
Good question. I didn't even have that hat on. My hat was I need to deliver this show and have it technically perfect. It was. How did it feel? I didn't think about it at the time.
It was so natural that didn't even.
I mean, honestly, they've been to rehearsals for 3 months. They are part of the room. They know the room better than us. They know how to set up and pack down. The children are very natural and comfortable in the space. And I think perhaps answers your question about asking Shannon, was he scared in the darkness? Because he's seen the room, he knows how the room is in rehearsal.
Right.
The darkness does. I mean, I thought the sound would scare him and be loud and uncomfortable, but they're not bothered. Because I think they know how it works behind the scenes. You know. So I don't have a good answer for you.
What do you think, Yoko?
Well, this was a second collaboration with Graeme. Right. I mean, I helped you some for the other project.
And we did Johannes's.
Oh yeah, and the other bits, but no, I mean, as like performance with audience. That's the second one. So it was just natural. And when I was here studying MA, contemporary performance making, I wasn't using theatre at all, and then I deliberately didn't ask any help to the technicians. So what I made, graduation performance, for example, was in the library.
Oh.
So I didn't do anything technical, anything dramatic, anything like. But I was more interested in site-specific performance, and yeah. So I didn't use that. So it was. Yeah, it was good kind of exercise for me to remember what I was doing before. Like I was dancing in theatre and then performing in theatre. So yeah, that was that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience or people watching?
I think it'd be good if we asked you a question.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Very simply, how was it for you? How was it? What was your perception of it? How did you receive it? How did you interpret it?
Right. I always try to see the meaning behind things or shows or plays. So it gave me many, many emotions. There were moments where I was crying
Oh no.
of beauty and of like what is happening right now, and it made me think a lot about beginning of things, about how I perceive darkness itself, and some scenes really moved me. Some things made me wonder, ask myself questions, and in the end I think that it should be for everyone. Everyone should ask themselves questions and interpret this show. So I really liked it, and you guys were amazing as a couple, on stage, off stage. You really brought the best out of it.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
It's good to hear. Thank you.
All right. So these were Graeme and Yoko, for you, the main character, and little Shannon, the main characters of Maid of Night, that hopefully you will see again. But if you didn't, please check it out. We have the recordings. Here he is.
All right. Say goodbye to the camera.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Go and turn the camera off for me, please.